Spring training days are dwindling to a precious few as the Mets put on the finishing touches of spring training 2012, getting ready for opening day just 4 days hence. In town, one of the powerhouse teams in Major League Baseball this year with the new Prince at their helm. The Tigers are here. Prince and, well, a few other Tigers as well. At Digital Domain Park in Port St. Lucie, Florida, Pix 11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball. Today, the Mets play the Detroit Tigers. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Port St. Lucie. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you today as the Mets take on the Tigers. The most closely watched story in Mets spring training camp this year has been the return to health of Johan Santana. Coming back from shoulder surgery, Santana has hit every mark along the way in his comeback. And today, what has turned out to be the inevitable result, Johan has been named to be the Mets opening day starter.
You know, it's just a fantastic thing to happen for the Mets. I think it's a real testament to Johan Santana with all the hard work he put in. But it's also a testament to a lot of the people down here that would help him along in his rehabilitation process. But I think it's a great gift that not only Santana's going to be back pitching for the Mets on open day, but the Mets are going to be able to watch it.
And really for this team, it's much more than one pitcher returning to health. It's really emblematic of the way this team is trying to progress, but also there's a trickle-down effect when you get your ace back.
Well, you really do. Santana is just one of those guys that takes away that pressure of being a number one. We saw how it worked last year with Mike Pelfrey, and Santana is going to be fantastic. And, you know, when you line up the Mets starting pitching, it's been one of the strengths here in spring training. R.A. Dickey going today, coming off an amazing effort in his last start. It was a minor league start against the minor leaguers, but he went 8 strong innings, only gave up an earned run, and he was outstanding. His knuckleball, watching it from behind the cage that day, is as good as it's ever been.
So the new and noted author, R.A. Dickey, takes the mound with his knuckleball today against the Detroit Tigers as the Mets count down the days till the end of the spring. Mets and Tigers, all the action coming your way on Pix 11. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Lexus and the all-new 2013 Lexus GS. By PNC Bank for the achiever in you. By Ford, check out the best-selling vehicles with the best values in America. Visit your tri-state Ford dealers. By the Home Depot, more saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. And by Jeep, visit Pix 11 Rewards on Pix11.com for your chance to win a 2012 Jeep Wrangler Sport 4x4. Mets return to Citi Field to open the 2012 season with the home opener this Thursday afternoon against the Braves at 1:10 p.m. Call 718-507-TIXX or visit Mets.com for your opening day tickets. Here's your Hyundai Around the Majors. Michael Pineda, a little shoulder problem, not as serious as they thought it might be, but still will start the season on the disabled list for the Yankees. Jamie Moyer makes the rotation for the Rockies, age 49. If he wins a game, he'll be the oldest ever in the major leagues. And Tommy Hanson over Jair Jurgens gets the opening day start for the Braves against the Mets on Thursday, and he'll be squaring off against Johan Santana, announced today as the opening day starter. R.A. Dickey will pitch game number 2, and he'll make his final start of the spring momentarily as the Mets take on the Tigers on a gorgeous day in Port St. Lucie. Come on back. Have fun. Let's check out the Tigers starting lineup, brought to you by Mazda. We believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. The Tigers having a bang-up spring. Certainly heavy favorites to win another American League Central Division title, but other than Prince Fielder, not with this lineup. Amazingly, the Tigers on the 1st of April are playing 2 games today. They've got a home game against, I think is it the Braves?
Yeah.
And they've got this game here. Why would you play a split squad game this late in the spring?
And it makes no sense. Your roster usually is down to 29 or 28 guys. There's Prince, who's made a couple of trips here to Port St. Lucie.
I guess that was included in the $214 million that he got from the Tigers.
He's happy with it. He's fine with it.
Well, he's a guy who plays every day anyway. Right. So he might as well get on a bus and travel for a couple of hours to face a knuckleballer 3 days before the season begins. And R.A. Dickey will make his final start of the spring, and we'll see how far he goes. Generally, that last start of the spring, a little bit shorter.
Yeah, usually it's about 5 innings or so, maybe 75, 80 pitches. And if you have extra work to do, you do it on the side. R.A. coming off an outing, it won't be listed here because it was against the minor leaguers, but won 8 strong innings and a great outing. 8 wins last season with a fine 3.28 ERA. And look at the defense is brought to you by Lexus and the all-new 2013 Lexus GS. Jason Bay in left field, Hairston Duda. That's your outfield opening day. Right, Cedeno, Murphy, Davis. But for Cedeno, that's your infield. And Dickey and Nikias, the battery.
Not pictured in the Mets defense, Andres Torres, who played in another minor league game today, went 1 for 4 and attempted a stolen base. So that gives you an idea that Andres is feeling a little better with that calf. But he and Tim Burdack, both of whom are question marks heading to opening day, will not participate in any major league games because this way, if they want to put them on the disabled list before opening day, they can backdate them and have them only miss a handful of games at the beginning of the year.
And they've got the people, the left-handed relievers, if Burdack can't make the call. And I guess, this is my guess, Routino maybe makes the team if Torres doesn't start the season.
Well, certainly Scott Hairston has looked fine playing center field for the last 3 or 4 days, coming back from an oblique injury. So if Torres is not ready to go, you have to figure Hairston would get that opening day start in center field. Andy Dirks will lead things off for the Tigers against Dickey. Mets well remember Dirks. Remember that series the Mets played in Detroit last year. The Mets walloped the Tigers in 2 of the 3 games, but Dirks homered in all 3 of those games. And the first pitch knuckleball hit in the right center, and the Tigers, who have been crashing the ball all spring, have an opening hit. Detroit's averaging over 5.5 runs per game this spring. They've already hit 39 home runs.
Get used to it. They're going to do it all season long. As you said in the open, Gary, one of the favorites to get to the postseason this year.
Well, they won 95 games last year. They beat the Yankees in that first series, and then were beaten by the Rangers in 6 games in the league championship series. They certainly expect at least to go as deep this year. Clete Thomas hitting number 2 in the order for the Tigers. He is out of options, and he is one of the last decisions that Jim Leyland has to make on his roster. 28-year-old outfielder who's had a couple of stints with the Tigers in 08 and 09. Ball and a strike to Thomas.
Well, they're trying to decide between Andy Dirks, Clete Thomas, Brandon Inge, who started spring training as the incumbent to start at second base. Looks like he's not going to start there.
Looks like Ryan Rayburn will be their starting second baseman. You know, the Cardinals a few years ago brought Skip Schumacher in from the outfield, turned him into a second baseman, and the Tigers basically have done the same this spring with Rayburn.
And if you Met fans remember that series, Gary was mentioning it, where Dirks hit the 3 home runs. Rayburn played a couple games. Defensively, he's challenged at second base. Good hitter, good offensive player.
2-2 to Thomas with Dirks aboard and Ramon Santiago on deck. Dickey misses just up and away, and a full count to Thomas. Well, as Ronnie mentioned, R.A. pitched 8 innings in a minor league game in his last outing, so he is very much set to go for this season. First play, and he got it. Right on the bag, and Dirks is picked off.
You know what's interesting, Gary? You mentioned those 8 innings against the minor leaguers. He picked off one of the minor leaguers in that start, and here it gets Dirks. Just gets that 1 foot forward, 3-2. You know he's running. That quick move, perfect toss, nice applying of the tag by Ike Davis.
So that's the first out of the game, and there's the second out of the game as Thomas is down looking on the knuckleball. So just like that, 2 out and nobody on.
Well, 3-2 pitch. No one on first base. Opts for the knuckleball, and it curves right in there. First strike.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Ramon Santiago, veteran backup infielder. Switch hitter, takes high for ball 1. Santiago, 260 a year ago, 258 at bats. That's about what he's going to get over the course of a year. Can fill in at second or at short.
He is a fine bench player. There's Prince Fielder on deck. You know, R.A. Dickey, I think one of the things that's lost to pitchers is that move to first base, keeping the runners close. I think he has the best right-handed move in the game right now.
And, of course, as a knuckleballer, you have to be quick to the plate, able to control the running game, because your pitch to the plate gets there so slowly and is so hard for the catcher to handle like that. 2-2 to Santiago. And R.A. also fields his position incredibly well. Certainly a Gold Glove caliber fielder. Went with the very slow knuckleball that time and had Santiago well out in front.
You know, he tinkered with that last spring training, and it didn't really work out in the first half of last season, but he's going to be using it more this year.
Well, last year he got off to a slow start, and you know, whether it was the weather, whether it was concentrating on that slow knuckleball during spring training. RA is determined to get off to a faster start this year. Goes to the fastball. Back comes Nickius for a look, and he puts it away to end the inning. So helped on by the pickoff. Dickey faces just 3 batters in the first, and the Mets will come up with no score. Here's your Mets lineup brought to you by Mazda. We believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. And close to an opening day lineup for the Mets. Lucas Duda has had a tremendous spring, hitting 6th in the order, as he undoubtedly will on opening day. Mets agreeing to use the designated hitter today with the Tigers in town, so Ruben Tejada will swing the bat but not play the field against a minor leaguer, Thad Weber.
A former Cornhusker from the University of Nebraska, Thad Weber, had a tough season last year in Toledo when he allowed 28 home runs on the season.
Well, that is a tough year. 151 innings, 176 hits. Here's Tejada, who's hitting 270 on the spring. And hitting leadoff today, which is where he'll be if Andres Torres is not ready to go on Thursday. Weber throws a first pitch strike. It'll be Tejada, then Murphy and Wright for the Mets here in the opening inning. Weber's pitched just 2 innings in big league camp for the Tigers this spring. They have got 18 minor leaguers on the travel roster today, which gives you an idea of the importance they've placed on this game. Now foul the ball on 2 strikes. Somebody was asking earlier, and I think it's a really good question for Elias to do some research on. You know, typically teams will send 3, 4, maybe at the most 5 regular players on road trips in spring training games, particularly here in Florida where you have long drives to make. So the question is, does that lead to a higher winning percentage for home teams in spring training than they would have in the regular season?
You think it would have to. You get the extra at bat. You also have the availability whoever you want from the minor leagues who can come over here. The Mets have, what, 7 or 8 minor leaguers in uniform today, just in case.
Breaking ball hit out to second base, and Santiago makes the play on Tejada, one away.
Look at the Lexus Tigers defense. Dirk's playing left field. Fields and Thomas finish the outfield. Don Kelly, can't promise you he'll pitch against the Mets today, but he's playing third base. Worth, Santiago fielder, and McCann behind the plate.
That's right. Kelly got in a game on the mound in that series in Detroit last year. The Mets were at their best during that road trip. They went to Texas and Detroit, and they were just scalding the ball. The first 2 games of that series, Dickey pitched the first game, and Mets won 14-3. It was against Rick Porcello, right. I think, started for the Tigers.
Who's had a fine spring training.
Another chance for Santiago. Nice easy hop. And quickly there are 2 out. The Mets won the second game of that series 16-9.
Is that the 2 Grand Slam game?
No, I think the first
14 to 3 was the 2 Grand Slam.
because Daniel Schlereth, who actually is here today, my pitch, gave up both the Grand Slams in relief.
Wow.
The second game, Phil Koch started for the Tigers, and he got lit up. But then the third game, Verlander pitched, and so everything changed.
Game over.
Actually, the Mets got some pretty good swings against Verlander, especially early in that game.
Well, that was when Reyes was getting a hit in every single first at-bat of the game.
So the Tigers won that third game 5-2. I think Reyes was up to about, what, 355 at that point, 360?
He was making a mockery of the game at that point.
3 ground balls for Weber in the opening inning. And Worth with the overhand toss to throw out David Wright. And the Mets are out 1-2-3. Dickey back to the mound for the second with no score. Perfect day for hanging out on the berm here at Digital Domain Park. 82 degrees, partly cloudy skies. And the big guys in town for the Tigers. Their huge signing, and I mean that literally, in the offseason. 9 years, $214 million for Prince Fielder, who essentially replaces Victor Martinez in the Tigers lineup. Martinez out for the year with a knee injury. He was 1A to Miguel Cabrera's 1 last year in that Tigers lineup, and that's going to be quite a tandem this year with Cabrera and Fielder hitting back-to-back.
Martinez, though, don't forget, you know, he's a guy that hits well over 300 too, so he's definitely going to be missed.
Chopper down to first, and Ike Davis there to handle it, and Fielder retired, 1 away.
That was one of those signings that was interesting because it didn't seem like Prince was on the radar for the Tigers, but sometimes an owner can make a difference, and he just wanted Prince on the team and said whatever it takes.
Here's Don Kelly playing third base today. He can play just about anywhere, and has for the Tigers. And he takes the knuckleball for a strike. Kelly hit .245 last year, a little over 250 at bats. One thing that Jim Leyland has on this team, he's got a lot of interchangeable parts once you get past the star players.
And he plays them. All the guys, Santiago, Kelly, they all get 200, 250 at bats.
Well, and it makes sense, too, because, you know, for instance, their starting shortstop, Johnny Peralta, is a very good offensive player, but he's not an elite defensive shortstop.
I agree. And I think what it's unusual is that most American League teams, you trot out maybe 9, 10, 11 guys at the most. Not for the Tigers.
That's why it's amazing when you look at Fielder, the fact that he plays 158, 160 games every year, but he did that in the National League. Now he'll be able to play 162 in the American League because they can DH occasionally. Most days their DH would be Dillman Young.
Well, the evolution of that DH spot is really interesting to me because it used to be get a big banger and put him in there for 160 games, but nowadays it's become a position in the American League to rest your stars. Get them off the field.
Just got a piece of it to stay alive. And that makes sense because there are so few players at this point who can stay healthy and productive playing 155 to 160 games. And you wonder why.
Yeah, right.
I mean, guys work out more and more. That's a foul ball.
I think there's a mindset, Gary. You know, there was a time when, you know, when you evolve from a place that you don't get paid unless you play a lot of games, all right? So you evolve from that place. Then you have the guys in the 60s, 70s, 80s, or whatever, thinking to themselves, they still have that mindset that you have to play to further your contract. And now it's a little different. I'm not saying that.
And that one gets away on strike 3. And a frequent sight with R.A. Dickey on the mound. A strikeout, pass ball, or a wild pitch. And that'll be a pass ball charge to Dickey.
Yeah, sometimes it's just too good. That late movement got Mike there.
Of course, Josh Tolle led the league in pass balls last year. The majority of those occurring when Dickey was on the mound.
And I guess, you know, I want to further my point because I'm not saying guys today don't want to play 160 games. It's just that there was a time when you would never think of a catcher taking the day off, day game after night game. Now it's universal. You have to have the day off. So it's just different thinking.
Well, I think it's that, but I think also, and I'm not just talking about catchers, but other players as well, you see players wear down late in the season in a way that you might not have 20, 30 years ago. And you wonder whether sometimes all the time that guys spend working out in addition to playing games wears on them over the course of the season.
Good point.
Into shallow center field, and in comes Hairston to make the play. That's the second out. And I think what it does is it makes them more finely tuned day to day.
Yes.
But it leaves them perhaps unable to withstand the grind the same way. And that's just theory. Also, guys come to the ballpark so much earlier than they used to.
Agreed, and I also think that there's a, you know, there was a feeling that when you were a player in the day, if you weren't 100%, you go, you know, listen, my 82% is better than anyone else's 100. Now, some guys feel as though you don't want to be out there unless you're 90 plus.
This is Daniel Fields, son of former big leaguer Bruce Fields, who used to be the Tigers hitting coach.
Yeah.
Now he's with the Indians.
Well, that's a lot of pressure when your dad's a hitting coach.
Well, I think it's the same theory, Ronnie, that has changed starting pitching. You know, it used to be that your goal was to pitch 9 innings and win.
Yeah. And
in order to do that, you would pace yourself over the course of a certain part of the game and dial it up when you had to. Now it's go as hard as you can for as long as you can.
I watch occasionally, you know, on our network, on the Mets SNY network, I'll occasionally watch one of those old-time games, and sometimes I'll be pitching it, and it just looks just awkward to watch the game today because there'll be innings where I'm kind of just flipping it up there, trying to get through the inning. That's certainly something we wouldn't do today.
Only Levon Hernandez does that.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, we watched Levon pitch here the other day, and he got lit up in that one bad inning, and the Astros released him shortly thereafter, and less than an hour later, he was signed again by the Braves.
And with a better team and a better position to succeed.
Well, the only difference, of course, is in Atlanta, he's not going to be a starting pitcher. He's going to be a long reliever. Cold foul, which is interesting because we had been talking just a few days before about the Braves and trying to take some pressure off their young relief pitchers, not get them as many innings. Now they've got 2 guys in the bullpen, Chris Medlin and Levon Hernandez, who can really eat up innings in relief.
You know, I was thinking about the 2016 the other day and let R.A. throw this pitch. And remember how valuable Darren Oliver was as a long man, not only because of his pitching ability, but he could hit a little bit and stay in the game for an at-bat. Same thing can happen for Levon with Atlanta.
2-2 to Fields with a runner at first and 2 out, and he goes down swinging. That's 3 strikeouts in the first 2 innings for R.A. Dickey. And we have a scoreless game at Digital Domain Park. Couple of scoreless innings for R.A. Dickey under his belt. It'll be interesting to see how far he goes today. His first start will be against the Braves on Saturday. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I'm having monitor problems, Gary, so you're going to have to take it.
Ike Davis leads off in the home second inning. And Ike takes a letter high strike from Thad Weber, who got 3 ground ball outs in the first. It'll be Davis, Bay, and Duda for the Mets. 4, 5, and 6 in Terry Collins' batting order. And it's whacked to right field. And a nice shoestring grab by Clete Thomas for the first out.
Well, nice play by Thomas. This had a lot of topspin sinking action, and he was able to just get that in the webbing of his glove.
So Thomas's webbing helps Thad Weber, and that's the first out. And here's Bay, still trying to get it untracked. 8 for 38 this spring with no RBIs. Weber misses outside, a ball and a strike. Jason now in the 3rd year of a 4-year deal. Slider in for a strike. 1-2.
Nice, generous, not generous, but higher strike zone for home plate umpire Sean Francis today. This is Dave Hudgens, hitting coach. No need to tell Ike anything. That was a bullet.
Well, Ike and Jason Bay have had their heads together virtually the entire spring, it has seemed. Lucas Duda on deck. And Jason will tell you it's about not letting too many voices in this spring and staying the course. But it's got to be awfully frustrating as it goes down swinging. First base umpire Gary Cedarstrom with the punch out.
Boy, I did not think he went there. Just a little high slider or cutter up in the strike zone. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I'll take that back. Good call, Gary. Not you, but Cedarstrom. No, you made a good call, too.
I don't think so. I just watched the umpire. So here's Duda, who has 4 home runs this spring. We're just rounding out what has been a very successful month of March, turning into April, and he takes a strike. You know, it's April Fool's Day, and every year on April Fool's Day, Jay Horwitz puts a bunch of onion-type things in his notes. That one knocks over Santiago, literally, and Duda is aboard. Looked like he was going to catch that line drive, and it caught him.
Well, he went to jump for it, but it had so much topspin that it ended up hitting him on the heel of the glove. This ball just killed by Duda. See how it caught him on the wrist?
I hope it hit the wrist of the glove and not the actual wrist of his arm.
He's a really fine defensive player, so you imagine that ball must have been moving. Maybe it could have been, on the day that R.A. is pitching, could have been a knuckleball off the bat of Duda.
Will charge an error on Santiago, and a painful one at that. So the Mets have their first base runner, and Scott Hairston, the batter. So, you know, Jay puts his April Fool's notes in every day, and we'll detail some of those a little later. But I was thinking the perfect one would have been Lucas Duda to embark on speaking tour.
That's right. That would be a good one. That's right. Or he's going to have his own talk show, radio talk show.
Andy McCullough did a nice feature on Lucas today in the Star Ledger, but it was almost comical for how self-effacing Lucas is and how he does not want to open up. So Andy talked to his parents instead. Got a lot of really good quotes. Out to center field, and Fields puts it away, and that retires the side. Let's get a runner on the bullet by Duda. No score after 2. Weeknights, if you're thinking it, we're saying it. That's why more New Yorkers are watching Jody Applegate and Pix 11 News. Be a part of the conversation. Watch the Pix 11 News weeknights at 5 and 10. We go to the third inning here in Port St. Lucie. Mets and Tigers no score. Let's send it down to Kevin Burkhardt.
All right, Gary, we got Justin Turner here. How many gloves are you carrying these days, fella?
I got 6 in there right now, so one for every position on the infield and a couple little trainer gloves. So,
how has your spring training been? Who threw the seeds? Usually it's you throwing the seeds. Who did that? Your hands are down here.
I think maybe Johan's.
Yeah, Johan's got some issues.
Yeah.
How has spring training been different because of that? You know, right at the get-go, Terry Collins said, well, face a tough lefty. Maybe Justin Turner plays first base. So it kind of set that in motion. How has spring training been different because of that role?
You just bounce around every day and get your work in, try to get as many positions in as you can, and been doing some extra stuff over at first because obviously that's the place I've played the least. But so far it's been so good, and feel pretty comfortable no matter where Terry puts me. So
define extra stuff at first.
Getting ground balls, going over to field 3 with tough, doing some work around the bag, just getting comfortable, on throws, when to come off the bag, when to stretch, try to keep the ball in, different situational things like that.
How different is the footwork there compared to, say, turning a double play? Give me an example to the fans what the footwork is like.
When I talk about footwork, I mean getting to the bag and covering as far as taking throws from our infielders. So it's a little different depending on the angles. On a bunt play, you kind of got to be squared up and get inside. And then from anywhere else, basically you're just trying to get there and get your right foot on the bag and wait and see the ball as long as you can, and then stretch out and catch it. So
that one falls in for a base hit for the Tigers. Is being a second baseman, now being a first base, is there kind of an imaginary line that you draw where okay, I'm not going to get that. I got to get to the bag to cover this. The difference is there.
That comes with experience. I've had a couple balls in the last couple of days playing over there where I kind of took a half a step or 2 towards the hole and then had to hurry up and bust back and get back to the bag. And the more reps I get over there, the more comfortable I'll be, and learning what balls Murph gets to or can't get to, or if Ronnie's over there, whoever's at second, just getting a feel for him and knowing where he's positioned to know what balls I can go after and what balls I can just go back to the bag and take the throw from him.
Yeah, I talked about Johan throwing the seeds. He's got very good skills in that. He's kind of hiding behind Rafael Landis over there, but he was also named the opening day starter today. How about behind the scenes? You and your teammates, what were you saying? Smiles. Give us an example of that.
Everyone's excited. We've been having high hopes for him being healthy and being out there, and I think that's huge for not only Johan to be out there on opening day, but the rest of our staff to have him go out there and set the tempo. He's a great competitor and obviously a great pitcher, and he's going to go out there and work hard every day and compete, and I think it's going to rub off on the rest of our pitching staff. Not that they need it, because they've been doing a great job. They did a great job all year last year. It's just an added bonus to our staff. So we're really, really happy he's going to make that opening day start for us.
We'll see you up in Citi Field. Good luck, Justin.
Thank you.
Guys, meanwhile, a nice double play there, turn with Ike and Dickey, but on the cover, Dickey got spiked, I believe. Let's go back to you.
He did. Corey Jones coming down the line as Dickey reached back for this ball, and he definitely got stepped on.
Well, this is the most difficult play for a pitcher, is getting over there to cover on the double play. Was not able to get his foot on the front of the bag, had it right in front. Nothing that Jones could do except step on his foot, and hopefully it won't affect R.A. Dickey, or if it does, get him out of there.
A foot injury was the turning point in R.A.'s season last year. It was when he hurt his foot in Chicago that actually his season got going in a positive way against all odds. We haven't talked yet much today about R.A.'s new book, which I had the pleasure of reading on Thursday night. But one of the things that he said in that book is that after that foot injury, he got an injection of painkiller before every start the rest of the season, at a time when he was putting up a very brave front and saying that it didn't bother him at all. But he was getting shots of, I think it was Toradol, every start, so for his last 20 starts of the season before he went out there.
I know what that's like a little bit. I had a bad Achilles myself one season, and that is no fun. Shows you how tough a competitor he is.
Andy Dirks is the batter at a base hit his first time up and takes a strike.
To go back to that play that R.A. had, when you're covering first and the first baseman's going to throw you the ball for a simple out, you don't really have to look at the bag because you've done it so much, you can just time being there. But when you cover first on a double play, you've got to look up and kind of time your steps to make sure you catch in front of that bag.
So Dickey appears to be okay after getting stepped on and gets through the top of the third with no score. Bottom of the third inning, and Mike Nikias will bat for the first time. Nikias, who's made the team as the backup catcher, hit a home run the other day. A pinch hit home run down in Jupiter. His first of the spring. Mike spent most of the winter working on his offense, which was the questionable part of his game and remains, in order to make this team, which everybody in the organization wanted him to do in deference to his considerable defensive skills. Not to mention the fact he's a heck of a nice guy.
I wonder if there was some eyebrows raised by some of the older players when Kevin was doing that interview with Turner. He said that, I understand first base now, but the other infield positions, he's got a different glove for each infield position, whether it's third or second. The older player would raise eyebrows at that. I mean, if they played the infield, they had one glove. I mean, you wouldn't have 2 or 3 different gloves. It was hard enough to break in one.
Well, of course, you want the smallest glove for second base just to be able to transfer that ball quickly on the double play. And over the years, third basemen's gloves have gotten bigger and bigger.
That's right.
Almost like outfielders' gloves.
It's called the Ventura effect. Robin Ventura was the first third baseman I saw that had a really huge glove. And there's one. Now, that kind of webbing, that open air webbing, those are the gloves you'd see in the outfield. Right. Guys would never have that in the infield.
It's Don Kelly, who plays every position. Probably use that glove for everything to first base and catcher. Nikias works out the walk. The Mets have their second base runner of the game. We're using the DH in this game today, so Ronnie Cedeno is batting 9th in the order. Cedeno having a nice spring with the bat and with the glove. Slated to be the backup middle infielder. I suppose it'll be a difficult call for Terry if he needs a backup for Murphy at second or for Wright at third to decide whether you use Cedeno in that situation or whether you use Turner in that situation. At shortstop, it's clearly going to be Cedeno, and at first, it's clearly going to be Turner. Behind the bag, Santiago with the reach gets the force, and Cedeno's safe at first. You know what I mean? I mean, they bring slightly different things to the table, but not that different that it's a clear-cut call.
Well, I think Turner's the better offensive player. Cedeno's the better defensive player. So maybe the starting pitcher might have something to say about that. If you've got a guy, let's say Mike Pelfrey's pitching, and he's he's on a good roll where he's getting a lot of ground balls, maybe Cedeno gets the call.
Or maybe also with the lefty on the mound, you might want the better fielding third baseman. Here's Tejada, who's DHing today. Ruben bounced out to second base his first time up. So Cedeno at first with 1 out. No score as we play in the third.
You know, a lot of times those decisions, Gary, are based. You get there and the manager's thinking and saying, boy, I haven't gotten Ronnie Cedeno any at-bats in the last week. I need to get him into a ball game. Sometimes that becomes the factor.
What makes it interesting also is that both players, Turner and Cedeno, had starting player playing time last year. They weren't necessarily slated to be everyday players, but Cedeno in Pittsburgh and Turner with the Mets both had over 400 at-bats last year. So, you know, in Cedeno's case, he has been both a starter and a backup and has performed in both roles. Turner really hasn't. He has never been a guy who has sat around for 4 or 5 days and then been asked to play, because last year he played almost all the time. A ball and a strike to Tejada, and that was obviously just because of circumstances, and Justin didn't even begin the year in the major leagues, if you'll recall, but he definitely did play I guess what in basketball we call starters minutes.
That's right. Well, you know, and we talked about the Tigers, and they're at 250 at-bats for their guys like Kelly and Thomas.
Double play ball, and booted by Santiago, who's having himself a rough afternoon. Couldn't catch the hard line drive by Duda, and now it boots the double play grounder from Tejada.
Well, Justin Turner was talking about footwork. That's where this all comes in. We can see Santiago trying to turn really before he had the ball. It comes up a little bit on him, and it hits the heel of his glove and bounces out. But he was trying to turn to make that throw before he caught the baseball.
So a pair of errors today on Ramon Santiago, normally very short-handed. And so a chance for Daniel Murphy with 2 men on. That's up a runner in scoring position for the first time. Murphy bounced out his first time up. And takes the sinker for a strike. Murphy with 5 RBIs this spring. Drove in 49 a year ago in an injury-shortened year.
Good block there.
But it doesn't prevent the runners from moving. The throw to second, and off the bag comes Tejada, and he's tagged out. So McCann on the short, wild pitch gets to it in time to make the toss to second, and Tejada oversliding is tagged out for the second out.
What a difficult position. Catcher, not only do you have to block it, but what an intelligent decision. He knows he didn't have a play at third base. He went to second, even though Tejada was going to be safe with the slide. He goes past the base, and the alertness of the shortstop to stay with him.
So it's not a caught stealing, just a 2-6 put out for the second out. And now Murphy the batter, with Cedeno at third. 1-1 the count to Murph. And the breaking ball drops in for a strike. And Worth and checking on R.A. Dickey, but nobody throwing in the Mets bullpen, so Dickey appears to be just fine after getting stepped on that last inning. And Murphy down swinging. Weber works out of a jam with his second strikeout. An error and 1 left after 3. Mets and Tigers, no score.
Back at Digital Domain Park, spring training in the air. You got Frisbees going in the stands, and you got a lot of reminiscing about baseball, which is so cool. I'm here with Frank and Grace Velez, who have been longtime friends of the organization. They're always here in the Booster Club down here, guys. They always come out and watch Hot Stove, and they've been married 56 years. It'll be 57 in May. But how about this? Well, Frank has a glove from 1948. It's a Richie Ashburn model, and it is in a remarkably good shape. It is soft. It almost feels like fresh baked bread in a way, Frank, you know? Tell me about the story when you got this glove back in 48.
In 48, my father took me. I wanted a new glove, so we went to Vegas, which was the only store in the area that sold sporting goods.
In Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn. And it was Richie Ashburn's rookie year, and he was doing good, so I said, let me try that one. And that's how we got the glove.
Now, when's the last time you actually caught a baseball with that glove?
1952. Oh, no, I catch him down here a lot.
Oh, you do?
I catch him down here. Everybody throws me baseballs. I catch him. But played a game. It was 1952, just before I went into the Navy.
And now, there's no stitching between the fingers.
No lacing whatsoever. Like these baskets they use now, how can they miss? It's impossible. It's impossible. He used this glove out there now. He'll make 42 errors in 2 innings. Guaranteed.
Can I see it for a second?
Sure.
I promise I won't damage it. Guys, you gotta. I mean, it's so soft, but yet, considering it's from 1948, there's a little hole right here in the webbing. After the pitch, we'll see if we can show you. I mean, check this out. I mean, there's no laces here, and it is in remarkably good shape. Here's the back, right? It's still there, and it feels very, very comfortable. Man, I'll tell you, it would hurt right on the hand. There's not much padding there.
Nothing left. No, there never was.
Now,
you see it now is the way it was when I bought it.
Yeah, you two used to go to Dodgers games at Ebbets Field. Right? Let's hear from Grace for a second. Now, what do you remember about those games?
Oh, God. We used to go on Saturday when he was on leave from the Navy. They would play doubleheaders. Women got in for 50 cents. Wearing a uniform, he got in for free. My mother used to pack us a lunch, and there'd be doubleheaders. So I was sitting there one day, and Jackie Robinson is on third base, and I said to my husband, does anybody ever steal home?
Whoa. That one is going to go yard. Prince Fielder getting out of here. 1-0 Tigers. I'm sorry, Grace, go ahead.
That's all right. I said, does anybody ever steal home? And just then, Jackie Robinson took off. And the man in back of me tapped me on the shoulder and said, lady, you're a witch. Ever forget it. It's in my mind and it stays there.
That's awesome stuff. Guys, Grace did tell me before we went on the air, going to be 57 years of marriage. She said, never thought about divorce, just murder. So things are going very well with Frank. They're great. They have season tickets to St. Lucie. They've been great supporters down here and just an awesome piece of memorabilia. Gary, back to you.
Well, quite a glove. We just saw, though, one of the longest home runs we've ever seen at Digital Domain Park over the awning at the top of the berm. Prince Fielder with a $214 million shot. 1-0 Detroit. Follow the Mets with MLB.com at Bat 12 for your iPhone, iPad, and Android. Get spring training scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at BAT to 31826 or visit Mets.com for details. David Wright will lead off for the Mets in the bottom of the fourth inning against Thad Weber, who's yet to allow a base hit. Wright grounded out to short his first time up. Well, the Mets moved here to Port St. Lucie in 1988, and they've played in this stadium, which has had several different names since then. They built the berm out there in right field, I want to say 12 years ago.
Yeah. Certainly after my time, a long time after I was here.
Since that awning has been up at the top of the concession stands, I have never seen anybody hit one over that awning until today.
Well, that was right center, too. It's not like it was down the line. I mean, that was there was only one player I played with in those early years that could even do that. Strawberry.
Yeah.
I mean, that was not only high, but man.
See, before the berm was there, if you hit one out in that direction, it would go to the alligator.
Yeah, it's Gatorville. Exactly. That's where Rusty, when he would go running, he'd bring a bat with him, half a bat, and have it sawed off, and he'd go there in case he encountered any alligators.
Danny Herrera, who might be on the opening day roster if Tim Burdack is unable to go, gets up in the Mets bullpen. By the way, it's Rusty's birthday today.
Oh, that's right.
Did we mention? 68 today. And, of course, it being April Fool's Day, Jay Horwitz put in his notes that Rusty is going to be attempting a comeback.
Oh, he is.
One of those April Fool's Day items. That
Mike Baxter wasn't happy about that.
That Jay's looking for somebody to bite on. Well, I mean, Mike, I'm assuming Mike knew it was a joke. 3-2 now to right. Of course, there have been times that some announcers, and I won't name names, have fallen for some of
Well,
Jay's
you have named names,
items.
but you wouldn't do it on air.
Well, that wouldn't be nice. Let me just put it this way. It was a note, the Mets had Chico Walker.
Yeah.
Remember Chico Walker?
Of course.
Jay put in the notes, this was during the regular season, it wasn't even April Fool's Day, as Wright draws the leadoff walk, the second one given up by Weber. He wrote that Chico Walker in the offseason was going to be going on tour with his uncle, Junior Walker,
the All-Stars. Oh, nice.
And
someone used it?
A prominent national broadcaster didn't realize the humor and used it as a straight item in a broadcast. And when he found out later, he was not happy with Mr. Horwitz for having gotten him.
Chico Walker, of course, is always the trivia answer to the last out in that game. That
driven to the right field corner by Davis, and it's out of here. A bolt for Ike, his second home run of the spring. A line drive, two-run shot that trumps fielder's moonshot and puts the Mets up 2-1.
Well, smart hitting by Ike. A lot of pitches not even close to David Wright. Wanted to try to get ahead of him, and he was lurking. And like you said, we saw fielders high home run. This one just a line shot down the line. Got out of here in about a second. One middle of the plate, up. Beautiful swing.
That's first hit of the game is a two-run homer by Davis, and now Jason Bate takes high. So Weber, who had been going swimmingly up until that point, needs a little settling down, and his catcher James McCann goes out to talk to him.
I was saying that when Dwight pitched the game that won the Mets the 1986 National League pennant
against the Cubs,
it was Walker who made the last out.
He struck out his first time up. So Jay has claimed his victims.
Well, I thought the funniest, of course, and the teams I played on were involved in it, was the Plimpton article in Sports Illustrated on Sid Finch, where, of course, was released on April Fool's Day. You know how many times I had to answer questions about where was Sid Finch? What field was he on?
Danny Worth from the hole throws out Bay for the first out. Well, you would think that if someone had actually read that article closely and seen that they claimed that Sid Finch threw 168 miles an hour, that perhaps that might have given it away.
It didn't.
Of course, you know what Sid was short for?
No.
Siddhartha.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I mean, this was George Plimpton. He had literary sets.
That's right. Himalayas, all that in the article. That's right.
Lucas Duda fouls it off. Of course, at at the time that that article was written, the Mets had a Sid.
That's right.
Who, might have been a little confused as to whether they were talking about him.
I could see that happening.
Of course, our Sid spelled his first name with only one D.
I wonder what Sid's doing. I know he still lives in Hawaii, and I know that he was involved with a lot of the humanitarian work with the public parks there and everything.
Duda bangs one foul.
I don't see him that much anymore because when they have the reunions of the players from the 80s, he sometimes makes it. It's 11, 12 hours for him.
Well, you two, in addition to being teammates, also are part of the very small fraternity. Players, major league players born in Hawaii.
The Mets have had a few, though. Agbayani, Carlos Diaz.
Oh, I didn't know Carlos Diaz was born in Hawaii. Here's the 0-2 to Duda. Get off the fists, and Santiago finally able to play one cleanly. Throws out Duda for the second out. I think of guys like Len Sakata.
That's right.
Mike Lum.
Mike Lum. Great pinch hitter.
Two out and nobody on. Here's Scott Hairston, who flied to center his first time up. Who's the kid who played for the Royals last year? And whose name I can't pronounce.
Yeah, it begins with a K.
Yeah, there's an apostrophe in there somewhere. Right. Keela.
Yeah, we'd have to get my mom on that one.
He's Hawaiian, right?
Yeah, he's Hawaiian, and Victorino, of course.
Right. The flying
Hawaiian.
Houston takes a breaking ball for a strike, 1-1. By the way, the other April Fool's note that Jay got in today was claiming that R.A. Dickey was going to swim the English Channel
after Kilimanjaro. So every winter he's got. That's funny.
It's kind of a sore subject because, again, in R.A.'s book, he writes about nearly drowning while trying to swim across the Missouri River, which is as harrowing a piece of the book as there is.
Yeah.
3 balls and a strike. I mean, the headline grabbing stuff has been about the sexual abuse he suffered as a child, but the most fascinating part of the book in terms of the story that he tells as Hairston lines out to Kelly is about trying to swim the Missouri River and how close he came to perishing in the process. Ike Davis puts the Mets in front. Their first hit of the game is a line drive 2-run homer, and the Mets go up 2-1 after 4. Weeknights, if you're thinking it, we're saying it. That's why more New Yorkers are watching Jody Applegate and Pix 11 News. Be a part of the conversation. Watch the Pix 11 News weeknights at 5 and 10. We go to the fifth inning. Mets leading the Tigers 2-1. And Danny Herrera takes over the pitching for New York.
Well, you see his numbers this spring. He has been outstanding. And Gary, you mentioned the last time we watched him using that breaking ball a lot more. So fastball, screwball, and that good curveball.
Danny Worth flied to center his first time up. So Dickey threw 51 pitches in his final spring tune-up. 4 innings, 1 run on 1 monstrous home run by Prince Fielder.
Yeah, luckily it only counts for 1.
Exactly. 3 hits, no walks, 3 strikeouts. I would love to get a measurement on that home run, though. That was, it's got to be 500, right?
That's unbelievable.
Diving backhand stop by Wright, but not quite enough to get Worth, who beats it out for an infield hit. But David saves a double with this dive.
Well, we saw that in his first start back from his injury. He made a nice diving play, and again here. But he's so deep, and with the speed of Worth, not a chance to get over there. But nice play by David. And Ike again, 1 hop, never gets past him.
He's going to save people a lot of errors.
Yes, he will. I'll have to ask Daniel Herrera and Al Jackson, one or the other, if Daniel's talked to Al. Al, of course, had his own version of a great screwball.
Of course, the Mets had one of the great screwball artists of all time in Tug McGraw.
That's right.
There have not been a lot of screwball pitchers lately, though. I mean, since Fernando Valenzuela, I can't think of anybody who's really made their living with that pitch the last 20 years.
They won't allow you to throw it in the minor leagues, I don't think. With all the restrictions they have on their young pitchers, I don't think they'd allow someone to throw it.
Well, Danny says that he didn't start out intending to throw a screwball, that he was just trying to figure out how to throw a changeup. And eventually he was pronating his arm, and it turned into a screwball.
Well, I learned it from Al because I could not develop a changeup. I learned the screwball from Al, but it was only good for about 2 pitches, and then my elbow would get sore, so I stopped throwing it.
The funny thing is that Danny said that when he first started throwing it, it hurt his arm a lot.
Yeah.
But then as he got used to it, it doesn't bother him at all anymore. Hit sharply. Murphy picks it out of the air, and Worth holds fast at first. So Fields retired for the first time. I mean, does that make sense to you that it would feel better over time?
Absolutely, because when you throw a different pitch, there's some muscles around the elbow that you don't use, and you start developing a different pitch, and you'll build up those muscles. Here's Tugger.
James McCann looped a single to right his first time up. McCann is a catcher, but he's no relation to Brian McCann. Brian grew up in Georgia, James in California. McCann's only had 14 games of professional experience. He was a second-round pick by the Tigers this past year coming out of Arkansas. So he is the rawest of rookies. Especially a catcher. I mean, how much experience do you need in the minors to be a big league catcher? Herrera plays the comeback, a wide throw, but Murphy does a nice job and turns it over. 1-4-3 double play ends the inning. We're halfway through in Digital Domain Park, 2-1 Mets. You know, it's not easy to find good pizza down here, but Frank and Al's right near the ballpark, they bring some outstanding pizza in here.
I eat at the Fars in Brooklyn. Really tough to
Well,
have
that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's hard to measure up.
That's right.
But, you know, they come close. They do a good job by Port
Pepe's in New Haven.
Action on the Detroit bullpen. That is Zach Samuels, who, if he gets in the game, will be the third different number 29 for the Tigers today. They had two number 29s in the starting lineup, and that would be the third. Mike Nickius drew a walk his first time up. It'll be Nickius, then Ronnie Cedeno, and Ruben Tejada for the Mets. By the way, just because, as Nickius grounds one to short, and a tentative move by Danny Wirth, who throws him out. Just because you have to worry about these things, the Mets sent Ethan Wilson in here to let us know that R.A. Dickey only left the game because he reached his pitch count, not because there was anything wrong with his foot. Right? You wanted to know that, right? Let's check in with Kevin.
You know, Gary, you never know who you run into in spring training games. You got Frank with a 1948 Richie Ashburn glove. Ran into a former SOI intern right here, Robbie Aaron, who is now doing single-A games for the Daytona Cubs, the Cubs organization. And give you a little camera time, Robbie. It's good to see you. Let me ask you about Theo.
Dangerous thing.
I know. Let me ask you about Theo Epstein. That's the big news in Chicago. And how does that filter down? And what have you kind of seen from him in the administration so far?
Well, I got to meet him at winter meetings in Dallas this year, and that was already 2 months into his regime as the Cubs GM. And he brought his guys, Jed Hoyer, everyone else in there, but he really didn't make any moves until about 3 months into it. And I was just impressed how he took everyone else who had been in the organization for years' opinions and took that into consideration before he really made any organizational changes.
Certainly, it's a team that has, I guess, a lot of work to do, no doubt about it. Now, you know, broadcasting the Daytona Cubs, you got a chance to see St. Lucie Mets last year. Cedeno pops one to the right side because they played in the championship round. Anybody on that St. Lucie Mets team that you could tell the fans that stuck out to you?
Well, Matt Harvey was here earlier in the season. Obviously, he's a big name in the prospect, especially on the pitching end. But he was up in Binghamton by the time we saw him in the championship. But in the field, Pedro Zapata, very fast outfielder, and obviously Wilmer Flores has been in the system now for a few years. But Pedro Lopez, the manager, great at developing players. He got moved up to Binghamton this year to manage as well. So I think that the Mets system, growing up a Mets fan myself, a lot of pessimism around it now. I think a couple of years, I think they're going to be a good team.
Yeah, can you give the fans a sense before we let you go about Florida State League baseball? Give the ambiance, what it's like traveling around in that hot summer.
I'm wearing a button down comfortably now in 83-degree weather. It gets about 95 and humid all the time. Miami is so happy to have that indoor stadium now. But we play all throughout the Florida State League is all the spring training places. So we get just a feel of what the spring training stadiums are like, but without the fans. So that's why Daytona, with the Cubs being in Arizona, is a great place because we don't have the spring training, so the fans are true Daytona Cubs fans, which is great.
Well, it's good to see you, man. Good luck.
Thanks a lot.
You know, guys, one thing I miss about Robbie, he never asked him, but he always brought me the lineups and the stats on the field before the game. I never asked him, never once, but he always brought it out there. So future interns, hint, hint, that would be nice. Back to you guys.
Robbie is definitely in the intern Hall of Fame.
Well, he is, and I'll never forget. He came into our booth one day, a few seasons ago, and said to you, "Hey, Gary, can I ask you a question? If you want to get involved in this business, if you want to be on there, what should I do?" And you said, "I can only tell you what I did. You go down in the minor leagues and you start working," and he's done it.
And he'll find his way back to the big leagues.
He will.
Sure. You know, he mentioned Pedro Zapata, 36 stolen bases for St. Lucie last year. Can you imagine if he ever made it to the big leagues? Viva Zapata? Be a natural.
That's right.
Be like the old Jose Chance.
Zapata facing the left-hander Clay Rapata. That'd be fun.
You've never forgotten about Clay Rapata and that grand slam he gave up. One hopper to third, and Don Kelly throws out Tejada. It's a 1-2-3 inning for Thad Weber. We are through 5. It's 2-1 New York. Well, it's nice to see Keith has gotten the boat off the dock.
Oh, nice. He's on his way up to SAG.
That would be a fun way to go. What is that, sleep about 6?
Just enough room for him and his cats.
Corey Jones leads off in the 6th inning against Danny Herrera. It was Jones who grounded into the double play in the 3rd inning, and coming across the bag at first, stepped on the foot of R.A. Dickey. Didn't appear to create any major damage. You saw Daniel Schlereth up in the bullpen for Detroit. Danny Herrera working his 2nd inning for New York. Here's that play from the 2nd inning.
Yeah, R.A. was trying to time his steps so he got there and got his foot where he wanted to, but he just couldn't locate it. And again, just so fortunate for the Mets that Jones looks like he got his heel and not his Achilles.
He had 2 inches to the left, and it would have been very different. Hook foul. But it was interesting, though, looking at the replay, because when Jones stepped on R.A.'s foot, he didn't react. There was no grimace or anything like that, so that told you that it was probably not anything serious. But certainly it was a great concern. But concern apparently misplaced. To the right side, and Ike Davis knocks it down but can't make a play. And Corey Jones has an infield hit.
Well, Ike had this one. Good lateral movement with the dive, but just did not catch it in the pocket, just off the end of the glove, and scoots free.
But you know what? You watch that and you think your lucky stars that Ike is able to move around there and dive, and we've seen him, throw his body around without any restriction this spring, and coming off such a frustrating year last year when that ankle just never seemed to be able to get right. It appears as though it is, Ike's never going to be a speed burner anyway, but it's now 100%.
Yeah, there's no after effects. He's playing at the same speed he played at 2 seasons ago.
Andy Dirks the batter, and he pulls off the breaking ball, and it's 1-1. Dirks looped a single to right in the 1st and then grounded out in the 3rd, 1 for 2. R.A. Dickey went the first 4 innings, allowed a run on 3 hits. Herrera pitching his 2nd inning of relief. By the way, Tim Burdack pitched in a minor league intra-squad game today, which was a little surprising because that marked back-to-back days that he'd gone out there. I think that Tim is trying to do his best to prove to everybody that he is ready to be activated opening day, and that decision probably won't be made until the very last moment. But you got a 38-year-old guy who had knee surgery, 3 weeks ago? Yeah. And it's a testament to the state of the art medically, but also to Burdack's ability to heal, that he's out there and doing this much work this quickly. 3 balls and a strike to Dirk. I would still maintain, and I know they've discussed it because Terry Collins said they had, that the Mets would be better off carrying 2 left-hand relievers into that first series against Atlanta. But the problem is that impacts other people as well. Lifted out to left, and Jason Bay is under it. The Mets committed to Miguel Batista being on the big league roster opening day. He was up on a minor league deal, and they had to make that decision by Thursday. And Miguel has pitched very well this spring, and they want his ability to pitch long out of the bullpen and be a mentor to the younger guys. But that does hamstring in terms of their ability to carry that second lefty.
Well, you have to have that guy in the bullpen if your starting pitcher goes down, has that kind of rubber arm that can give you 3-4 innings. I'm very impressed with Herrera's breaking ball, and especially dropping down with it, changing the arm angle, doing all the little things to get an advantage.
It can only drop down so far. Here's the 0-1. And that popped into left center field. Over comes Hairston. Bay gives way as Hairston makes the catch for the second out. So Herrera continues to impress. 2 out, Jones still at first, and now Ramon Santiago is scheduled to hit. This is not Santiago. This is yet another number 29.
Mr. Machado here.
Dixon Machado. This is like a joke, right?
Maybe it's April Fool's.
They've already got Danny Worth, who's number 29, and Daniel Fields, who's number 29. They've got a pitcher warming up in the bullpen, Samuel's number 29, and this is Machado, the fourth number 29. Passed right in the hole, Cedeno, and safe at first is Machado. I mean, I happen to be partial to the number 29.
You like 29?
Oh, it's my birthday.
Oh, okay.
But 4, I think, is too many on one team at one time.
I think they should have brought them all 29 for April Fool's.
Well, we have that game every April where everybody wears 42.
That's right.
So I don't know who this would be a tribute to. Maybe they're big Ike Davis fans. So a couple of infield hits here in the 6th for the Tigers, and now here's Prince Fielder, who launched one into alligator orbit his last time up.
Guys thought you might find this humorous. The RA meeting with the media asked about the home run to Fielder. He said, well, clearly windblown.
Very nice.
Well, one thing is for sure, Prince had to supply all his own power. It was one of those super slow knuckleballs from Dickey that he hit out of the ballpark, and the win for a rare time this spring is no factor at all, as he cleared the awning above the berm in right field. Yeah, that's where it went. Over and above. And the fastball from Herrera misses. 2 balls and a strike. Don Kelly, the on-deck batter. So Herrera keeping it away from Fielder. I guess Danny was watching.
He was.
Fielder hit 38 home runs a year ago. That's with the full shift on.
Got to keep David on that left side, of course, with the runner on second base.
See what Herrera does here on 3-1. Hasn't thrown him a screwball yet. Now he does, and he gets it in for a strike. 3-2.
Nice breaking pitch by Herrera. Behind in the count, if you're a lefty reliever and you don't throw hard, you got to be able to throw a strike with your breaking ball. Nice job.
So now the runners will move with 3-2 and 2 out. Herrera outweighed by about 130 in this confrontation. And that's outside ball 4, so the bases are loaded. So that's the first walk given up by Met pitching today. And now the base is loaded for Don Kelly. Dan Worthen's going to pay a trip to the mound. John Roush getting up in the Mets bullpen. Herrera working his second inning. He's thrown 30 pitches already, so he'll get this one more batter with the left-hand hitter Kelly up.
Well, for you folks at home, what will happen here is you start to get the manager and the pitching coach into in-season kind of decisions. You send out your pitching coach, you try to get John Roush hot as quick as you can, and if he isn't able to get through Kelly, then Roush will come in. Those kind of things happen during the course of the season, and they happen that quickly.
Jones is at third, Machado at second, and Fielder at first with 2 out. You don't think of Herrera strictly as a lefty specialist because the screwball is his feature pitch. Hit hard, and there's a base hit for Kelly. That'll bring home Jones. Machado as well. The throw to third by Duda is not in time. Fielder arrives safely. A 2-run single for Don Kelly puts the Tigers in front 3-2.
Well, you pitched around Fielder. You get Don Kelly, and he was waiting for that fastball on that first pitch. Nice hitting. See Lucas Duda, once he comes up with this baseball, he decides to opt for the slower Prince Fielder going from first to third. Prince had enough speed to get in there.
nice tribute, too, to how Prince plays this game. You know, he's here with a bunch of minor leaguers in a road spring training game 4 days before opening day, and he's going first to third.
Yep, playing hard.
So it's 3-2 Detroit. Here's Danny Wirth, and Herrera stays in to face him and throws the fastball wide. I mean, there are a lot of guys in Prince Fielder's position, and particularly a guy his size, who would have pulled it at second base and just not bothered.
That's right. And to make matters worse, usually the guy with the bigger contract's in charge of the food on the bus for the ride home. So,
well, as long as he leaves some over. In the dirt, 2 balls and a strike. So things not going quite as well for Herrera here in his second inning. Gave up a couple of infield hits, pitched carefully to Fielder and walked him, and then Kelly with the first pitch base hit to drive in 2. Two and 2 to Wirth. He spent most of last year in the minor leagues. Second round pick by the Tigers back in 07 out of Pepperdine, where I don't know how anybody concentrates on baseball or anything else.
Or studying, right? Pepperdine, if you haven't been there, is in Malibu, California, on this beautiful hill, and it just overlooks the Pacific Ocean.
Screwball fouled off.
In fact, right below Pepperdine is the Malibu Little League field.
Really?
And if you hit the ball, it literally looks like it goes into the Pacific Ocean. But can you imagine that's your field growing up, playing from 9 to 12?
Make it a little spoiled.
That's right.
Now the 2-2, and that misses up and away. Full count to Danny Wirth. So at this point, you have to figure this will be Herrera's last batter if he doesn't get Wirth. They'll bring in Roush to pitch to Field. Kelly takes off from first, and it's low ball 4. So 4 straight have reached base after 2 out, and that'll be all for Herrera. Roush will come in with the bases loaded to face Daniel Fields. So the Tigers have posted 2 here in the 6th. They lead 3-2. Pitching change for the Mets. We'll be right back. Danny Herrera done after an inning and 2/3. And John Roush will inherit 3 base runners as he comes in.
You see his spring got off to kind of a slow start. He's kind of rebounded in his last couple of outings. Left-handers hitting at a .333 clip.
Fielder at third, Kelly at second, and Wirth at first with 2 down. 2 runs home for Detroit here in the 6th. And Daniel Fields, the 8th man to bat in the inning, has struck out and lined out to second base. Well, the Mets certainly need for their 3 new relievers to pitch better during the regular season than they have this spring. Neither Francisco nor Roush nor Ramirez has been especially impressive. And, none of them had to make this team.
Yeah.
So you have to take their results with a grain of salt.
Well, other than the closer, Gary, I'm a big believer that your guys like Roush and Daniel Herrera, your starting pitching has a lot to do with their kind of success, because if they're given, well, they can start innings, or they're given easier situations, 2 outs, guy in first, as opposed to what Roush has here, and that's the bases loaded.
And quickly behind on Fields, 2-0. And now 3-0. Well, Dan Warthen made the comment about Francisco, just talking about his velocity. He said that he needs to see more. With Roush, it's not a matter of velocity. He's not going to be a hard throw.
Yeah, it's the angle he throws the ball from, and also he has 3 different pitches.
And that, sometimes for a relief pitcher, getting your 3 or 4 pitches going in spring training, having enough innings to do that is an issue. And that's ball 4, and that forces in a run. So the third walk of the inning. This one will bring in Fielder from third, and it's 4-2 Detroit.
And, Gary, I think you make a good point about Francisco. You say to yourself, well, why? You see their numbers, Francisco, Ramirez, and Roush, this spring training. The reason it's so important for Francisco is that his best pitch is a split finger. So if he doesn't have enough on the fastball to get hitters really alert for that, then they won't swing at that split finger in the dirt. I know from experience.
Here's James McCann. McCann has a bloop single and a comebacker into a double play. 1 for 2. Kelly now at third, Worth at second, and Fields at first. 3 runs are home for Detroit here in the 6th.
Jim McCann played, as you see Nicky was talking with Roush, played in the Cape Cod League for the Katuitt Cavaliers, who that's the team I played with. And George Greer was the manager, who has a bigger role this year with the New York Mets. I think he's going to be in Buffalo, I believe.
Katuitt, where's that on the Cape?
Right in the middle. Right in the middle. It's like the town before, Dennis, Harwich.
So right as you'd make the turn.
Yeah. There you go.
Going off the hook.
That's right.
What did you say, halfway to Provincetown?
Halfway.
Daniel Schlereth up again in the Detroit bullpen. Here's the 0-2 from Roush, and the curveball hit deep to left. Bay going back for a look, but that ball is out of here. A grand slam for James McCann. And it's 8-2 Detroit. McCann, a kid with 1 career minor league home run, gets a breaking ball on 0-2 and accounts for 4 runs.
Even when the Tigers don't have their regular players, they hit in big numbers. 0-2, slider up in the strike zone, just begging to be hit, and McCann does it.
So a 7-run inning for the Tigers. I mentioned earlier, McCann has played all of 14 professional games coming out of the University of Arkansas last summer. A 2nd-round draft pick. And he just hit a grand slam off a big league pitcher. In fact, that's his 2nd home run in big league camp this year in just 8 at-bats. So he's making an impression. The Tigers are well fortified behind the plate with Alex Avila, who had a breakout season last year. This one's ripped to right off the bat of Corey Jones, and that ends the inning. 7-run inning for the Tigers. Changes for the Tigers as we go to the bottom of the 6th. That's Wade Gaynor playing first base. Danny Worth, old number 29, moves over to second. Dixon Machado, old number 29, stays in the game at shortstop. And old number 29, Danny Fields, is still playing in center field.
That's great.
Spring training. Can't wait to put it in the rearview mirror. Daniel Schlereth, not wearing number 29, is on the mound for the Tigers.
Well, Schlereth, who you can see at the bottom there, is acquired from the Diamondbacks. He was their #1 pick and traded quickly afterwards.
Well, that was that huge three-way deal in which Curtis Granderson went to the Yankees and Austin Jackson also went to the Yankees.
No, Austin Jackson went to Detroit from the Yankees.
Right.
Yeah.
Ian Kennedy went to the Diamondbacks,
right.
and Edwin Jackson went to the Diamondbacks. It was a mess.
Scherzer went to Detroit.
Right. So far, you'd have to say the Yankees and the Diamondbacks got better in that deal than the Tigers did, although Scherzer had a pretty good year last year.
And he had a nice postseason start, too, against the Yankees.
But Ian Kennedy had a tremendous season last year, and, of course, Granderson is a big star.
Well, Kennedy won 21 games last year? Gee.
Daniel Murphy celebrating his 27th birthday today, and that's no April Fool's joke. So, happy birthday, Daniel. He's 0 for 2, grounded out and struck out. And Schlereth falls behind him 2-0. Well, you remember last year the Mets were in Detroit. They had not hit a grand slam in a year and a half. And in the space of 2 innings, Daniel Schlereth allowed the Mets 2 grand slams. Jason Bay and Carlos Beltran in back-to-back innings hit grand slams off Schlereth, who was pitching in relief.
And you saw something very rare in that game. The wind was blowing out to left, and Carlos's grand slam, at least, was one that was aided by the wind. And then Cabrera came up, I think, in that game and showed that he didn't really need any wind. Miguel Cabrera hit one off the center field ivy.
He's good.
Yeah, great.
How about he missed 2 weeks because he got hit in the face by the ground ball, and then he came back and he got a double to left, double to right first 2 times up.
Yes.
Ball 4 to Murphy, and the Mets have a leadoff base run.
As good as it gets.
How would you compare and contrast Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols?
That's a good question. I think that Pujols to me is the more complete player. I think he adds a lot defensively at first base. Cabrera, of course, switching positions from first to third. But as far as a just unadulterated power, I think Cabrera's got it over Pujols.
Really?
Yes, I think Pujols probably. Pujols, has 400-something home runs. But Miguel Cabrera hits balls that you've never seen. And also, Cabrera's great at going to right field in key situations. He's a .330 hitter.
What I find interesting watching the two of them hit is that Pujols has this incredible intensity and the glare and the scowl.
And everything's tight. His forearms are tight.
And Cabrera just looks like he's just stepping into the bullpen, stepping into the batter's box and having a nice day in the park, and all of a sudden he's hitting a bullet somewhere.
I would say he's more of a natural. How's that for Cabrera?
Zach Samuels, another 29 up in the Tiger bullpen.
This is great.
David Wright takes inside, and it's 2-0. David walked and scored in the 4th. He's also grounded out 0 for 1. But now both those sluggers, both of whom started their careers in the National League, are now both confirmed American leaguers.
It's going to take a while getting used to, isn't it? So you catch the late scores and the late games as you're going home to Connecticut and hearing the radio voice announce that Pujols hits a home run for the Angels of Anaheim.
Slowly hit grounder. Gaynor with a nice play to get the force at second. Wade Gaynor going a long way to get the 3-6 force.
Well, he made this look pretty easy. Backhand and just a little toss over the head of Murph.
Well, when you think about West Coast teams, just in general, you think of them more for their pitching than you do for their offense. It's not often that you wake up and hear, somebody went 4 for 5 with 5 RBIs in a West Coast game.
Well, you're going to hear it this year.
Yeah, I guess so.
Now, the Trumbo's going to move to third base.
Third base, at least part of the time.
Morales is going to DH.
Right.
How about that lineup?
That's a very deep lineup because you have a lot of speed there too with Burgess.
Probably one of the fastest guys in baseball.
And you've got, you know, a couple of very talented players who didn't have great years last year in Vernon Wells and Torrey Hunter.
That's right.
I mean, they could be extraordinary if those guys have bounce back years.
Is Mike Trout going to play every day?
They sent him down.
He'd be starting with a lot of ball clubs. There's just no position for him.
Zach Samuels and
another 22.
Yeah. Well, that's Bruce Rondon in the bullpen for the Tigers. Mets only have one number 29 on the field today.
That's right.
He has a home run. A bullet down the right field line for his second of the spring.
You know, there's one more player for the Angels no one ever talks about. Howie Kendrick can light it up too.
Well, that's going to be quite a fight in that division between the two-time defending American League champions. The Rangers they've got everything, and they added, you know, maybe the best available pitcher out there in Yu Darvish. You know, how he holds up under the grind of a major league season remains to be seen, but what we've seen in spring training, he looks like he could be extraordinary.
What do you have, 11 punch-outs his last spring training start?
Worth handles the hop, throws out Davis, and that's the second out as Wright moves over to second. I mean, we've seen it before with Japanese pitchers, you know, like Daisuke come over and look great, but then, you know, it's very different pitching every fifth day and with a ball that doesn't have quite the same seams as opposed to pitching every 6 or 7 days the way they do in Japan. So you have to apply that caveat, but
it's pretty nice though when you can lose C.J. Wilson and get Yu Darvish to take his place.
Well, also the Rangers have a couple of pitchers in that rotation that nobody talks about who are incredibly talented lefties with Holland,
Derek Holland,
and with Harrison.
Yeah. Harrison's another guy that came over in that trade from the Braves. So they got Harrison, they got the shortstop
Andrus,
and Neftali Feliz, who's going to be in their rotation this year.
See, that I'm not quite as sure about.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But there's been a trend toward teams taking successful relief pitchers and making them starters. I mean, the Red Sox did it with Daniel Barnes, and he apparently has now made their rotation. They've sent the service to the bullpen.
Well, making the rotation and being successful 35 times this summer is going to be a big difference.
1-1 to Bay, who struck out and grounded to short. Right at second with 2 down. Mets down 8-2 as they bat in the 6th. Now fastball strike from Schlereth. Mets have had only 1 hit in this game. It was the Davis home run in the 4th. Tigers have had 8 hits, including a pair of home runs, the Fielder moonshot, and the grand slam hit by McCann. Swing and a miss, and Bay down on the changeup. Schlereth's first strikeout, and the Mets are done in the 6th. On to the 7th we go, 8-2 Detroit. Seventh inning at Digital Domain Park. John Roush, who gave up the grand slam to James McCann in the 6th, stays out there for the 7th. Andy Dirks will lead things off for Detroit. Dirks 1 for 3 and a base hit back in the 1st before R.A. Dickey picked him off. And he lines one to short off the glove of Cedeno. And Dirks is aboard. Looks like Cedeno had that leap time pretty well. Just couldn't squeeze it.
Just off the end of the glove. E6?
No, I don't think so. The 9th hit for the Tigers. Dirks with his 2nd. And now Cleat Thomas, who's 0 for 3. Takes one in tight from Roush. We have a pinch runner at first base for the Tigers. Toward the hole and a base hit for Thomas. Tyler Gibson, the pinch runner, pulls in at 2nd. And so back-to-back hits. So Roush has faced 5 batters, given up a walk, a home run, a line drive out, and now a couple of base hits. That'll bring up Dixon Machado to bat for the 2nd time. Machado had an infield hit. Diving stop at 3rd by David Wright his first time up. Ronnie, you've had a chance to watch John Roush since he first came up with the Nationals. How would you compare what he is now compared to what he was back in 05, 06?
Well, if we can take out what's going on here, obviously he's struggling with his control. When he first came up, he threw a little harder. He was more of a guy who was just a fastball slider guy.
That bloop falls in. A chance for a force at 2nd. I don't think Duda realized it until too late. And now the bases are loaded.
Well, Duda put the fake on to try to get the runners to freeze, and it worked, but he didn't realize it. Well, I mean, watch, he puts his glove up like he's going to catch it. I'd put the deke on the runner on first base, but then Lucas kind of fell asleep. He had a shout at him. You can see the guy in first, right? As soon as he puts his glove up, he stalls, but then gets on his horse again and gets to second base.
You have to have faith in your own prestidigitation.
There you go. That's right. That's right. Roush, when he first came up, threw a hard fastball, mostly up in the strike zone, and a hard slider. Now he has a change-up he'll throw. He pitches to both sides of the plate.
Wade Gaynor takes a strike.
But, I just feel like he just hasn't, like Francisco, hasn't found that 88 to 92 where you want them to be. It's been more in the 85, 86 range.
And so with Roush struggling, Josh Edgin quickly to work in the Mets bullpen. Edgin is still officially in camp with the Mets, although everybody says it's almost certain he's going to the minors. 2-1 to Gaynor. Mets don't have to make their final cuts until I think it's 5 o'clock Wednesday.
Wednesday 5, yep. There's a game. I think there's a game Wednesday night, right? To launch. I mean, not to launch the season because it's already started, but
the Marlins open their stadium Wednesday night.
It's interesting because usually teams that have a new stadium open up on the road just to give them a couple of weeks to make sure that everything is running correctly. Remember, the Mets then they have Georgetown and St. John's play the game just to.
Right. And then the Mets open the season on the road. There's a strike 3-2. I think the Marlins have a soft opening against the Yankees, right?
Oh, okay.
And that's right before the Yankees come here for the game on Tuesday. Here's a 3-2 from Roush. And it's fouled away.
It's going to be interesting. It might be a while before I ever see that ballpark because I'm not really allowed in Florida during the season. That's Keith's time.
And it's hard to fit 3 in the booth there. Although we did it last year on opening day.
Yeah, we did.
Again, the 3-2, and Gaynor pops one up. See if it stays in play for Ike. They'll have room. And that's the first out of the inning. So a big out for John Roush as he retires Gaynor on the foul pop-up, 1 away.
But by all indications of the people that I know that have seen the ballpark, they just say it's spectacular. Parking might be a little issue right now, but
Here comes Terry Collins. So it looks like he's going to bring Edgin in at this point. Or not. This may be just more of a talking to. Well, he's going to take the baseball. So Roush is out. Edgin is in. 8-2 Detroit, threatening for more in the 7th. We'll come right back. Josh Edgin, who's been very impressive since being brought over from minor league camp, will come into a mess here.
27 saves last year. He has been impressive. Got a great fastball and good breaking ball.
So John Roush goes 2/3 of an inning, gives up 4 hits and a walk, including a grand slam to James McCann. So not a good outing for Roush. And now Edgin brought in to face Don Kelly, who singled in 2 runs against Danny Herrera in the last inning. Bases loaded, 1 out. Down to first, and Ike's going to take it to the bag, allow a run to score, and that's the 2nd out. So now it's 9-2 Detroit as Gibson comes in to score. It's interesting the way the Mets played that.
Yeah.
Almost as though there were 2 out.
I mean, that throw, even if you don't think you can get 2, you go to second base to keep, the force in order.
So now runners at 2nd and 3rd with 2 out. And Danny Worth, the batter. Worth has an infield hit and a walk, 1 for 2. Edgin coming right after hitters as he has all spring. There's a certain fearlessness about the way he's approached things from the day he arrived.
Very aggressive on the mound. See a lot of young players that kind of pitch around the strike zone. Not Josh.
Gets it on the hands of Worth and gets ahead 0-2. 93 miles an hour. Well, this is why the scouts have said of Edgin, since they saw him last year, that he was going to come quickly, even though he hasn't pitched above A ball. And he's in all probability not going to begin the year in the major leagues, but it wouldn't be beyond the realm of possibility to see him before the year's over. He's ahead here 0-2. Slider knocked down 1-2. I've been trying to look up whether there's any famous number 29 in Tigers history that they're honoring.
Yeah.
You find anybody?
No, not yet.
Neither have I mean, you have to say it's pretty odd, right?
Yeah, someone in Detroit cringing right now.
Strike 3 called, and Worth is down looking. So Edgin comes in, and again is impressive, getting a couple of outs. 7th inning stretch, 9-2 Detroit. This tour of Digital Domain Park is brought to you by your Tri-State Ford dealers. It has been a great spring weather-wise here on the Treasure Coast of Florida as we turn into the month of April. Another beautiful 85-degree day. The berm, always a well-populated place, and a missile sailed over the berm and over everybody today as they watch Prince Fielder's home run go to places that baseballs rarely travel. That is Edgar Corsino now playing third base for the Tigers. And Tyler Gibson, who pinch ran, stays in the game in left field. Lucas Duda leads off in the home 7th inning against the left-hander Daniel Schlereth, who works his 2nd inning. Lucas is 0 for 2, and he takes inside for ball 1. Well, I've been properly humbled.
Both of us have
figured out who well, there have actually been a couple, but the most prominent number 29 in Detroit Tigers history was a guy who was the World Series MVP in 1968.
3 complete games.
And later was a Met, traded for a guy whose birthday it is today.
Oh, Rusty.
Right.
So
traded for Mickey Lolich. Of course, Mickey had a few more pounds than that when he came to the Met. He was always big, off the glove of Gaynor, and an infield hit for Duda. He was always big, but Mickey had expanded to unfathomable girth by the time he joined the Mets, and was not nearly as successful as a Met as he was as a Tiger. That's going to be all for Schlereth. They'll bring the right-hander in to face Scott Hairston. So the Mets have just their 2nd hit of the game on Duda's infield single. And Bruce Rondon will come on to pitch for Detroit. Pitching change for the Tigers, who lead 9-2 in the 7th. We'll be right back. Right-hander Bruce Rondon, who hasn't seen 190 pounds in a little while.
But one thing he does see a lot is 100 miles an hour. He's one of the best arms in their organization. It's been interesting, right? A team always known for their hitting has gotten Verlander, who throws 100. They had Zumaya for a while, who threw 100, and now Rondon.
Corey Vaughn pinch running for Lucas Duda at first base as Scott Hairston comes up. Well, they say of Rondon that he's gained about 100 pounds since they signed him, and as he's gained weight, his fastball has gained with it. Doesn't always go that way.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope. You have to watch out there.
Hairston is 0 for 2. He's fly to center and line to third. Scott is just 1 for 12 since re-embarking his spring training following an oblique injury. But most importantly, he's healthy now and ready to be the opening day center fielder if Andres Torres isn't ready to go. Torres played in a minor league game this morning and went 1 for 4, and Mets are keeping him on the minor league side so they can backdate him on the disabled list if necessary. And right now I'd have to say it's pretty much 50-50.
Yeah.
As to whether Andres is going to be ready to go. Victor Lorez up in the bullpen for the Tigers. Nikias on deck for New York. And a foul tip held by the catcher McCann, and Hairston's out, one away.
Well, high slider, but just enough break. Fouled into the mitt by Hairston.
So 1 out and 1 on. Nikias, who's walked and grounded to short 0 for 1. Mets have been out hit in this game 11-2. Tigers scored 7 runs in the 6th inning. Off Danny Herrera and John Roush. Let's see, the Mets don't have much left in spring training. They go to Disney tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
To play the Braves. That's a bullpen day.
12 o'clock game, I believe.
Because I guess the Braves are leaving. They're going to play a game with their minor league team in Gwinnett. The ball almost got away from Fields, but he reaches up to grab it for the second out. And then the Mets come back here, play that 2 o'clock game against the Yankees, which will air on SNY on Tuesday.
You got a spring training home and home with the Yankees, right?
Mike Pelfrey will pitch that game against Ivan Nova Tuesday. And then the Mets and Yankees go to Tampa to close out spring training on Wednesday. It is definitely not advantageous scheduling at the end of spring training for the Mets as Cedeno jumps back. I mean, I know they wanted to squeeze these games in with the Yankees, and the only way that either one would do it is if they played home and home.
Yeah.
But, you know, the Mets are going to play Wednesday afternoon, head up to New York, and open the season Thursday with a 1 o'clock game.
Well, not only do they open the season, they also, you know, they're bringing up players that are not going to play in the new configuration of the ballpark. Got to get a lot of work before the bell sounds at 1 o'clock, and then you know, they have their welcome home dinner that night. Friday they'll be able to relax that day off if Thursday's a nice day. You said the weather's supposed to be nice, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be cool but nice. Down the right side, tough play for Gaynor, and it goes out of play. It would have been difficult if it had been in play. Two and 1 to Cedeno, who's 0 for 2 on the day. Hit into a fielder's choice and fly to right. And he bounces one foul down past Tim Tuffle. 2 and 2. Now the 2-2, and Cedeno watches wide, a full count. Matt Krause in the bullpen. They have 2 number 47s, a lefty and a righty. Identifying the Tigers today is like playing Twister.
That's right.
Left hand yellow. Backhand play by Worth, and he throws out Cedeno to end the inning. An infield hit and 1 left. We're through 7 in Port St. Lucie. 9-2 Detroit. Changes for the Mets as we go to the 8th. Danny Muno comes in to play shortstop, and Corey Vaughn, who pinch ran, stays in right field. Josh Edgin got the final 2 outs in the 7th, stays on for the 8th. Daniel Fields swings and fouls one back. Fields walked with the bases loaded against John Roush in the 6th to force in a run. 0 for 2 on the day. Edgin continues his very impressive spring. Came into a bases loaded 1-out jam, got a ground ball and a strikeout.
Well, when you're a young pitcher, you want the pitching coaches to keep it simple, and he keeps it very simple. He repeats his motion every single time, and Danny Worthing's got to be pretty impressed with this young left-hander.
2 balls and a strike to Fields. Well, the day began with the announcement that Johan Santana will be the Mets opening day starter on Thursday. And I guess by this morning it had become a foregone conclusion. But if you go back to late January and early February when Johan began the painstaking process of getting ready for this point, it was by no means a given. But he has been able to toe the mark at every point in the process. And you have to give great credit to the rehab staff and the training staff here, in addition to Johan, for being so meticulous about doing it the right way.
You know, honestly, the way he has come back.
Strike 3 called. Fields down looking.
You can almost write kind of a medical journal on how they rehabbed his arm, not only from the guys like Randy Neiman and the trainers and physical therapists and all that, but also with the hard work that Johan put in. You know, he's a remarkable athlete, and sometimes it takes a remarkable athlete to come back from devastating injuries.
Well, and part of that is having restraint. Yeah. And I remember even back to last year when Johan came to Miami, when the Mets were there, and talking with him, he was very adamant about not getting ahead of himself in the process, about only looking at the next step rather than looking at the big picture, because that's the only way that you can keep yourself from doing too much and setting yourself back.
Well, he's so focused when he's on the mound, so it took that focus to get through that rehabilitation process. I think also because he carries such stature, and with this late announcement of opening day was really kind of run by him, was that he didn't want anyone, Terry or his staff, making any comments about where he was at. Don't tell people that it looks like I had a great day today. Don't tell people that I had a good week, that I threw off a mound. Just let me do my work, and I'll be ready or I won't, one or the other.
And really the only day in the process when there was seemingly any glitch in the steadiness of the pattern going forward was that last start against the Cardinals that he made on Monday, when he had trouble getting loose. He clearly was having trouble getting his mechanics together and walked 3 batters in the first inning. As McCann grounds one right along the line, and that's a foul ball. He was able to self-correct, but he was also able to say afterward, rather than using athlete speak, he was able to say, look, this was not my best day. I had trouble getting loose. But he was able to take the next step forward after that and throw between starts, and then he had his simulated game yesterday and felt good. And I think he understands that it's not a straight line.
One of the hardest parts when you're going through that process, and I had 5 operations when I was a player, is that being honest with yourself, being honest with the people around you, and boy, Santana always had that.
Guys, I talked to Johan today, and he kind of looked at opening day as his first big goal. He was so happy. He said, look, it's not over. The process isn't over. I still have work to do. But clearly just joyous to get to this point and all this work to be, paying off to this effort. I asked if there's going to be a pitch count on him, and he said, they haven't talked about a hard pitch count, but he certainly feels, at least for the first couple times around, it'll be around the 88 mark, which is what he did that last spring start. And
has a base hit.
And so, he said they haven't talked about the hard count, but he said, probably around there. He said, really, it's up to me after that. He said, I fully intend to get it up to 100, but we'll see how the shoulder reacts and how quickly we can push it. And, Gary, that goes to what you're saying. I think the other thing about Johan is just his clubhouse presence. You know, I mean, today he walks in the clubhouse and sings very loudly happy birthday. He's got a cake for Daniel Murphy. He makes Murphy come over and blow out the candle. And he's very much, you know, a man in that room, and everybody takes notice. So I think that's a big thing.
Well, there's no question that his presence was missed last year as Corey Jones hits one to Murph, who gets the force, and that's all. And I think also you know, the other guys in the rotation wouldn't quite put it this way, but it takes a lot of pressure off everybody else.
Absolutely. You know, that, you know, I went through it when Dwight couldn't make the call in '87, and it's a very difficult thing to do. Pelfrey had to deal with it, of course, last year. I will say, though, you know, Kevin was talking about opening day. If you don't have that carrot as an athlete while you're going through that rehab, you'd never go through the pain. You just wouldn't. You need those carrots out there to kind of strive for, to get you back in the game.
So Ronnie, now that the season's going to open and he's going to be throwing pitches that matter, and we've talked about how he's been able to rein himself through this process and not get too far ahead of himself, is it harder now that you're pitching in games that matter?
I think it won't be harder. I think what will happen is that he'll have to battle that adrenaline bug that he's going to have. But in some ways, Gary, pitching in that first game, when he's pitching against his teammates here, that was a big step. Remember, he said he was a little nervous, and he was hoping that the hitter who stood in the box would at least take the first pitch. So he's had those little adrenaline moments that will only build, of course, on April 5th.
Guys, he told me that he has not worked on any of the pregame handshakes, which he so famously does.
Right.
So that'll give you an idea that the decision really did come down to the wire.
Well, I don't know if he's going to be in mid-season form as far as those handshakes are concerned if he only has 4 days to get ready. Eric Turgeon up in the bullpen for the Mets. Now it's 2-2 to Gibson, and he swings and misses, and Josh Edgin has his third strikeout in an inning and 2/3 in relief. Another very impressive outing for Edgin. Kraus, a young left-hander, will come in to pitch for the Tigers as we go to the bottom of the 8th. Pitched in the New York Penn League last year. Made 13 starts, went 5-1. That's a good way to start your career. 24th round draft pick last year by the Tigers. Happy birthday to Rusty Staub. Always remembered Rusty's birthday because he's no fool, you know.
We've had 6'11", John Rout. We've had Daniel Herrera pitch. We've had Rondon, who's got tree trunk legs. We've got Krause here looks like he's got a mix and a steak. I mean, amazing.
Ruben Tejada, who's DH today, will take ball one. Tejada's 0 for 3. Mets have had only 2 hits. A home run by Ike Davis in the 4th, an infield hit by Lucas Duda in the 7th. And that misses long away. Here's a strike. Just looking at the Tigers' record this spring, they're 17-7. With 5 ties.
Wow.
That's got to be like the world's record for spring training ties, right?
That's right.
5. The Mets have had 2.
Did they have the shootout?
I think they just run out of pitching a lot, I guess. Must have played a few games against the Yankees, right?
Yeah, that's right. You see, the Blue Jays are 23-5 this spring.
There's ball 4 and Tejada's on. 23-5.
They're a team that
you don't want to waste wins out here.
But it tells you a little bit about Toronto's a team to be reckoned with this year.
Well, there are going to be 4 powerful teams in that division. I mean, the Rays may not spend a lot of money, but they know how to put together a team.
And their manager, I've been lucky enough to be around Joe Madden a lot, and he's a brilliant guy, but he might be the best example I can give right now that he's able to transcend the old school and the new school and how to get to young athletes. He's just really great at it. They have, it sounds silly to people at home, but they have, theme flights where they wear a certain outfit together. Who can have the funkiest Western wear or whatever they do. But he's done a great job at getting these young players to play for him. Forward-thinking guy. He did last year, Gary. He had people call in and do the lineup.
Luke foul, and that'll go into the Mets dugout. Well, the Rays have been a forward-thinking franchise under Andrew Friedman. And they've been able to not only transcend the fact that they have a low payroll, but also the fact that they don't have a whole lot of fan support in the stands.
That's right. You've done a game in that ballpark, haven't you?
I got to do a playoff series there last year, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it, the place was almost sold out.
Yeah.
But we're going there this year. I don't know if you make that trip.
I don't think I do.
It's Florida. You can't go.
That's right. Exactly. Again.
It's the one shoot of Murphy, and he reaches out, and
people are going to think I have a warrant for my arrest here or something. I did a game there. You remember the 7th game when Kemp Bay played the Red Sox?
Sure.
And they took off that tarp that you usually have that holds 5,000 seats and are kind of blocked views. And they put people there, and that was as raucous as it could get.
Just missed. My favorite part about the whole experience there was before the series began, Rich Rieker, Major League umpire, now he works for Major League Baseball.
I think I had the same experience, but go ahead.
He gathers all the announcers for radio and TV and gives them the half-hour lecture about the rings.
That's right.
Out to center field and an awkward path, but Field stays with it and makes the catch, robbing Murphy of an extra base hit. It was not exactly the way you'd draw it up on the chalkboard, but Field stays with it.
Well, by the time he realized that the ball was over his head, he could not change direction, so he kind of had to go with it and catches it behind him. Nice play. Oh, Yeah, I had that same speech. And in fact, in our broadcast, did you do radio or you did
radio?
So in our broadcast on the TV side, we had a whole diagram on if it hits this, what it is.
Ring, it's the B ring.
Hilarious.
It's a joke of a ballpark.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the basic thing. I mean, if you remember, they built that ballpark in Tampa Bay speculatively because they thought that the White Sox were going to move there before the Illinois legislature at the 11th hour agreed to build the new Comiskey Park for the White Sox. And then they thought the Giants were going to move there. And then the Giants got new ownership and eventually, got their new ballpark.
They started to build that when I was a player for the Mets, still training in St. Petersburg.
Right. It was, late 80s, early 90s. And so the ballpark, by the time the Rays came into existence in 98, was completely out of date. But even with that, how did they build a baseball stadium with these catwalks that could be easily hit by minor league, by high school players?
That's right.
Wright flies out for the second out. Did they not realize that balls elevated that high?
They just thought all the balls were going to be fair. That's all.
But fair balls.
That's true. That's true.
It was not a great feat of engineering. Let's just put it that way. So, and to boot the fact that people in the Tampa Bay area will tell you that they built the ballpark on the wrong side of the bridge. That if they built it in Tampa rather than in St. Petersburg, they would have had a much better chance to, get a better level of regular attendance.
Regular attendance, and you'd be able to get a lot more of the people from the Clearwater, Dunedin area. So you'd have St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Dunedin, and Tampa. It would be more of a regional, and it also, you'd get the people from Orlando to come over because they wouldn't have to cross that bridge.
Tejada runs, they ignore him, and Tejada takes second. It's not the ninth inning, so they'll probably give him a stolen base.
Announcer indifference.
Well, we were having an interesting conversation. Davis hit a 2-run homer. His at bat in the 4th inning, lined it down the right field line. His second home run of the spring. But you think about small market, low budget teams, and that's how we got into this conversation. And generally, they're able to build toward excellence for a very short period of time. That's pulled down at first, but what the Rays have been able to do now for 4 or 5 years is keep up that level of excellence with the low payroll, and that's what makes it extraordinary. We go to the 9th in Port St. Lucie with the Mets down 9-2. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Toyota. Hurry in, it's Toyota's #1 for everyone sales event. By Skechers, go run the way you're supposed to run. By Chevy, the Chevy Equinox offers an estimated 32 mpg highway. Learn more at ChevyOffers.com. And by Wendy's, try Wendy's premium fish fillet sandwich made with only 100% North Pacific cod.
Now 19 years old, Casey Turgeon in for the Mets.
I believe this is actually Eric Turgeon.
Oh, sorry, Eric Turgeon.
Hit to the right side by Cleet Thomas. And one pitch and one retired. That is Luis Nieves now playing second base for the Mets, who have a whole new infield alignment. Mike Baxter is coming to play first base for the Mets. And Vinny Rotino has gone in to play third. It's Vinny, who still has a shot to be on the opening day roster if Andres Torres is not ready to go. This is Dixon Machado up for the third time. He's 2 for 2, an infield hit and a bloop single. The Tigers with 9 runs and 12 hits. The Mets 2 runs and only 2 hits. And Turgeon misses 2-0. Eric Turgeon from the University of Connecticut played last year mostly at Binghamton, where he was in 51 games in relief. And it's lifted out to right center. And Hairston takes charge. 2 out. So 2 up and 2 quickly set aside by Turgeon here in the top of the ninth. And now Gaynor will be the batter. Wade Gaynor 0 for 1. He fouled out to first base. R.A. Dickey started this game for the Mets, and other than one very slow knuckleball that was hit 500 feet or so by Prince Fielder, it was a very good outing for R.A. and his final tune-up for his first start, which will come Saturday against the Braves at Citi Field. Mets open Thursday, take Friday off, play Saturday and Sunday against Atlanta. And then welcome in the Nationals for 3 games to complete their first homestand. Gaynor with a 2-out hit. The 13th hit for the Tigers this afternoon. And now Edgar Corsino will bat for the first time.
Get him, man. Come on, man. Get him, man.
And he takes a strike. Corsino, native of Puerto Rico, drafted by the Tigers in 2009. Switch hitter, batting left. And he lifts one to left field. And Jason Bay, who's played the whole game, puts it away to retire the side. So a nice job in relief by Eric Turgeon. And we go to the bottom of the ninth with the Mets down 9-2. changes for the Tigers as we go to the last of the ninth. Luis Sands comes in to catch. That is David Gonzalez now playing second base. And Luis Castillo, not that Luis Castillo, is in right field. And on to pitch, Victor Larez, 24-year-old Venezuelan, to face Jason Bay, who takes up and away for ball one. Another rough day for Bay, who's gone 0 for 3, struck out twice. Bay is now 8 for 41 on the spring, hitting under 200. Ball and a strike. Mets have been held to just 2 hits today. A 2-run homer by Ike Davis in the 4th, an infield single by Lucas Duda in the 7th. Mets with a loss today will be 7-19 on the spring. And you start to ask the question, just how much does it matter what your one-loss record is when you get to opening day? I mean, you mentioned the Blue Jays who are, tearing it up in spring training.
Well, I mean, I can't remember one record of spring training of the teams I played for, but you definitely want to go around 500. You want to have some wins. You want to have some positive things happen.
I guess the question is, especially with a team for whom the outside expectations are so low, if you lose a lot of games in spring training, does it somehow reinforce those expectations for a team that internally feels as though they're going to be a lot better than people think they will?
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think there's one player in that dugout or in the clubhouse is thinking, boy, this is the indication of what's going to happen this year. I don't think you feel like that. You feel like, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here healthy. We have our ace coming back, pitching opening day. I think, that you take all positives when you start the season. And sometimes when you have a tough spring, as Jason Bay walks, you have a tough spring, you're like so happy to turn the clock and start the regular season.
Now Corey Vaughn will bat for the first time. Of course, last year the Mets had a so-so spring, and then they began the season. They were 5-13 before he could blink, and played very well for 3 months after that, but were kind of weighted down by that start they got off to.
Well, I think the most important is that they are going to start at home. They're going to start with their ace, and the Mets have to find out some way, somehow, to play better at home. I mean, that was the problem last year. Huge problem.
Well, and a lot of that is going to fall on their bullpen.
Yeah.
Which, simply gave a lot of games away last year. There's no better way to say it, especially early and then late in the season. Vaughn lifts one out to shallow right center. Castillo is there for the first out. Now Scott Hairston has gone 0 for 3 today. And the other piece, of course, for this team, and we've said it all spring, is they just can't afford to get people hurt.
Yeah. The depth is not there.
I mean, that begins with the starting rotation, where there just is not a legitimate fallback plan. I mean, right now, if the Mets needed an extra starter, they'd probably use Miguel Batista, who at age 41, you don't know how long he would hold up in the rotation.
When you're looking at a season, you're trying to think about all the positives that you have. You're looking at Ike Davis and Lucas Duda as two guys that maybe this is going to be a breakthrough kind of situation for them. You think that David Wright and Jason Bay have to return to their excellence that they've always shown on the back of their baseball card. You're starting new people with Tejada at short. Murphy's bat, you hope, is going to be there for 500-600 at bats. And the starting pitching has been great in spring.
I think that if the Mets are able to keep their players on the field this year, I think their offense will be fine.
Yes.
Their offense was fine last year, and even taking Reyes out of the equation, I think they've, and with the development of Duda and having Ike Davis back and having David back for a full season, I think their offense should be fine. I think the concern with this team is defensively and their pitching depth. I think you're right. I think the starting rotation has been very good this spring, and there's no reason why individually those 5 guys can't all have good seasons. And I'll include Mike Pelfrey in that off what we saw in his last start.
You know, they got a lot of quantity from those guys last year. They need a little more quality this year.
To Hairston with 1 out and 1 on. And he goes down swinging. Second time Hairston's been struck out today. And the Mets are down to their final out. Mike Nickius has gone 0 for 2. Lined out to center field his last time up. Only 3 more exhibition games to go for the Mets after today, before they open up Thursday afternoon. This is that time of the spring where everybody you see says, I can't wait to get out of here.
That's right. And it doesn't matter where you are. You just want to get out. And for us, of course, to go back home.
Well, the roster's been substantially set. Pitchers have gotten their work in. Now you want games that count.
Duffy's card is maxed out.
Danny Muno hoping that Nickius can keep it going, get him a turn. Three and one now to Mike. Dickey is facing Victor Larez. Here's R.A. Dickey, who pitched 4 solid innings today in his last tune-up of the spring. And Nickius gets a hold of one. Deep left field. Gibson going back. Right back at the wall. He makes the catch. And that ends the ball game. Well, Nickius making a bid for a 2-run homer. Came up just a bit shy. And the Tigers win it 9-2.
Well, Tigers just had too much today. R.A. Dickey with a good effort, but not enough offense for the Mets. Really, the only offense they had was that 2-run home run by Ike Davis, which much needed for Mike.
A tape measure blast by Prince Fielder. The game summary brought to you by Time Warner Cable. Enjoy all the things you love better, all from Time Warner Cable. Tigers win this one 9-2. We'll come back with much more from Port St. Lucie in just a moment.